In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.
Folks, to understand the Republican mindset there, Wisconsin Democrats are urging action on legislation to tweak policing practices, but the special session that was called, y'all gonna let us one here. The Republican-led legislature they brought the session in, gavelled it, done after 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Really? Really? They recess until Thursday. There's no indication the Republican-led legislature is planning to take up the package of 9 bills Governor Tony Evers and Democrats are seeking anytime soon. So let's talk about this. Seriously, Kelly, like Trump really, here's the deal. We know about what happened in Kenosha because what happened to Jacob Blake. And then Trump, with his white supremacist language, which he has been doing for the past several weeks, he's appealing to, let's be clear, white voters in Wisconsin, especially white women, with his comments about the suburbs. We're going to play later some of the crap he said in his interview with Laura Ingram, which shows you, again, he is all about appealing to white fear in order to get reelected. This was nothing more but a photo op for him to slap law enforcement on the back when law enforcement was the one that put 7 bullets in Jacob Blake's back.
Well, the reason why he's appealing to white supremacists is because that's how he got elected in the first place. I mean, the number 53% isn't going away anytime soon just because it's 2020. If anything, we need to be focused on that number and making sure that it's not such a problem as it was in 2016, or a hidden problem rather, because we all thought that, you know, people would have common sense and not vote this man into office. But you're right about him appealing to this base. It's not surprising to me at all. The fact that he's in Kenosha and didn't say anything about Jacob Blake, that would hold any weight anyway, is just peak Trump. I'm not expecting him to suddenly turn over a new leaf only less than 60 days before the election. No, this is what's working for him. This is how he would be reelected again if Democrats don't get their act together and vote him out.
No, look, he goes there not actually concerned about the community or black folks there who are impacted. It's another law enforcement show.
I think that the focus on law enforcement is important. I'm not sure if Donald Trump will be welcomed in the community.
Is that the biggest thing? You say it's important, but is it the most important thing? Because that's what he made this out to be. The grants I mentioned, all about law enforcement. I mean, if you look at what we're talking about, this whole deal is law enforcement, law enforcement, law enforcement, not how do we get law enforcement to stop shooting folks unnecessarily.
Well, I do believe that there was about $1 million for Kenosha's law enforcement there. I think that that's something that actually could be used for the body cams that they decided not to put until the next budget. So I think that it would be great if they could actually use the $1 million for that. But there was an additional $4 million that the administration Trump announced today that will be used for the businesses. And apparently in that area, about 70% of the businesses in the affected area have less than 15 employees. So that $4 million will likely go very, very far. And based on what the gentlemen were saying, most of those people in that community, as far as the business owners in that community, were I don't know if he said black or minority, but they weren't white. So I think that that's something that's definitely a benefit to the community. Again, I'm not sure if the community would have welcomed him. I think we heard today that there were people who chose to have a different event than participate or maybe be around whatever Trump was doing, but that's a choice that he's making. But again, I'm just not sure if the community actually would have been receptive to him coming there to wherever the block party was or anything like that. But the funding is important, and that's something that's definitely benefiting black people apparently in that community.
But isn't that part of the problem? Those shows, his absolute lack of credibility, Mustafa. I mean, look, when George H.W. Bush was president, he actually sat down and met with community leaders after the Rodney King riots. That's what presidents do. This is somebody who, frankly, has no credibility with black community leaders because of what comes out of his mouth and because of his policies.
Well, it's because he doesn't sit down with black community leaders across the country. He will invite selected folks to the White House whom he knows how they will react and what they will share. You know, working at high levels in the government, I know that whether Democrats or Republicans, if they're serious about connecting with folks, they can do focus roundtables in the community, you know, where they made sure that they were talking to different folks in a controlled environment, which probably would be very important for the current leader of our country. The second part, you know, Malik, I love you, brother, but I think that we also need to really focus on the fact that we have seen through COVID-19 that many black businesses have not been able to benefit from the dollars that have flown through the federal system. So I'm sure people have a pause when they hear about these resources that are supposed to come to the city, if they will actually be able to compete for them. Will they have whatever the criteria that's been set up in place? Will they be able to meet that? And then the third part is, you know, we all know that the president does not care about these communities. This was an opportunity to try and position himself to win the state of Wisconsin. He only won the last time by, I think it's less than 1%. So he knows that he's got a whole lot of work to do, and he's willing to do that work on the backs of the black folks who are fighting for justice.
Kelly.
No, I agree with Mustafa here. It's really sad to see just how low this president will go in terms of pandering and basically bribing the American people for a vote. Because it's not like this money is going to come into Wisconsin tomorrow. This money will be here and not distributed anyway until after the election, just by way of how things work in the federal government. It's not exactly the quickest thing. So it's really kind of like holding a carrot in front of a horse and just trying to entice people to vote for him just for the sake of voting for him, because that's all he wants to do. It's not about government. It's not about leadership. For him, it really is about winning. And it's sad because we need a president. We need a leader, specifically because of COVID and for anything else, because we need to get healthy first before we can even think about, helping the black community get better, because we're dying because of COVID as well. So we have this president who is really just pandering and at the same time ignoring us. It's really just disgusting to see. But no, I don't have any faith that this president has our best interests at heart. And we definitely need to vote him out come November.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please
Take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.